Hello everyone! My name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Hi, hello! Welcome to a little March wrap up. I also figured that we would kind of talk about quarter one in this video because it is officially the start of April, the start of quarter two of the year. So we're just gonna get into it. We're gonna discuss some goals that I set at the beginning of the year and how they're going, all that kind of stuff. In the month of March, I ended up reading 8 books by the skin of my teeth. Snuck in that last 8th book on the final day of March. I had a very, very slow reading month, which is valid because I was writing draft 2 of A Favored Fae. I had that goal to finish draft 2 by mid-March. So the beginning of March, I read like nothing. I read very, very, very little. I finished a book, let me see, March 5th, March 9th, and then March 20th, March 22nd, 23rd, 29th, 30th, and 31st. I read 8 books, exactly 8. So let's talk about them. The first book that I ended up reading this month, reading and finishing, was The Kamigawa Food Detectives by Hisashi Kashiwai and translated by Jesse Kirkwood, I do believe. I apologize if I pronounce this author's name wrong. This is a cozy little slice of life translated work. I enjoyed this. It was fine. I was expecting a little bit more out of it. I wish we had gotten more of the actual hunt for the food. So this is as I said, a cozy slice of life kind of book where it is depicting different kind of episodic stories about these people who go to a specific restaurant for help tracking down a very specific recipe of some kind of food that they ate at one point in time. So we had a man who's looking for his late wife's exact type of noodle soup dish. We had someone looking for a specific sushi, someone looking for a specific stew. You get the vibe. I enjoyed it from the beginning. I thought it was a very good vibe. The food description was absolutely delicious and made me very hungry, but it was a lot of just the same thing over and over and over and over again. There was very little difference between the stories. It was all laid out as in the people would come to the restaurant, they would do the interview, and then there would be a little snippet of the daughter and her dad talking about it, and then it would fast forward to them having that done and the person coming back, and it was, I don't know, it felt a little empty. I wish we had more of the daughter or the father looking for the food and trying to figure things out rather than them just telling us how they did it afterwards. It was a lot of telling. It wasn't a lot of actually living that moment with the people, but I think it was still fine, and I ended up giving this one 3 stars. Then I ended up reading The Fractured Dark by Megan E. O'Keefe, which is the second book in her Devoured Worlds trilogy, which follows Tarquin and Naira Sharp as they are navigating this world of fucking banana shit, man. I don't even know. This is the second book, as I said, so I can't really tell you a whole lot about it without spoiling the first one. So this is a world wherein they live on a lot of space ships and a lot of space world type situations. There's a word for it, where everyone's living not on a planet but somewhere up in space. Anyways, there is a technology that has been created where people can be reprinted into different bodies because their neural pathways, i.e. who they are, their memories, everything about that, their intelligence, all their lived experience is transferred into these neural pathways, and that is what allows them to be reprinted into new bodies in different spaces if they need to be, or if they accidentally pass away in something very violent, they can be reprinted. But there is a limit to this, and if you are killed or die in a very, very brutal way, you have a chance of being cracked. So when they reprint you, if you have died in this very violent manner and you have cracked, you come back and you never really come back because you just come back screaming and you never stop. So there are some limits to this technology, but the reprinting aspect is really interesting because our main character Tarquin is actually trans, and he was born in the wrong body, and eventually he gets to be able to be reprinted into a body that fits him much better. And I think the transness of this book was handled so beautifully, or this series I should say, because I'm talking in generalizations. Hi, sweetness. We have a visitor behind the camera who is now refusing to come. Ay, she says, I have been found out. have been found. So the first book follows Tarquin and Naira as they kind of get themselves into a very interesting situation because Naira has been printed into a body that they believe is somebody else. And so she pretends to be that person while she's in this body. And she is one of the heads of the like conservator, which is this like rebellion type situation. She is on this mission as Tarquin is trying to find out information and trying to oversee this bit of mining because his family is like in charge of the mining of this specific mineral that they use in the neural pathways, Relkite. So they go to this planet, they're on the way to this system, Sixth Cradle, I believe. But when they crash land on this planet, after some shit goes down in the spaceship and all this kind of stuff, they realize that the planet is already dead because the conservators have been blaming the Mercators, which is Tarquin's family, for this shroud that has come in after all of their mining expeditions for Relkite and completely just destroys the world, eats all the living things, and eventually kills the system that they're in. But they arrive on this already dying planet and they must survive. So it's sci-fi horror with a lot of romance in it as well. I loved it. And book 2 was just absolutely phenomenal. I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I had such a great time. And these might be like 4.5 star books, but they're definitely some of my absolute favorite sci-fi books I have ever read. And I loved it. And I cannot wait to get to book 3. Hey, Goose. Hi, sweetness. You comfy here? You don't want to go anywhere? Oh, you want to go. Okay, here, I'm gonna put you down. Here we go. Then I ended up reading What the River Knows and also the sequel, Where the Library Hides by Isabel Ibanez. This is a YA fantasy duology that is compared or comped to The Mummy meets Death on the Nile. And I did not know that going in. I picked this up mainly thinking that it was going to be very atmospheric. I thought it was honestly going to be along the lines of Rebecca Ross's The Divine Rivals duology. Very atmospheric, very lush. That's what I anticipated. I don't know if I heard someone pitch it wrong on TikTok or not, but like, that is not what the fuck this is. This is a high octane, balls to the wall adventure in Egypt that kind of low-key turns into a gang novel at some point, a gang story, gang movie at some point. It's fucking bananas, guys. I had so much fun with these 2 books. Oh my god. Okay, so the beginning of this one, the first one, felt like the first like 60% of this felt very apt once I like went into it and realized what this was, because we are following Inez, who is this young woman, 17 years old roughly, who has been left behind by her parents for her entire life as they are going to Egypt and all these different places around the world to do excavations, I guess. They're like not actually architects? No, archaeologists or anything like that, but they travel and study and research all this kind of stuff. She's been left behind her whole life. She just desperately wants to be with her parents because she loves them so deeply, and she also wants to experience this world that they're in. And then she finds out one day from a letter from her uncle that they have died. They've gone missing. They're presumed dead. And so she decides that now, because she is now basically an heiress to all their money, but her uncle is still in charge of it because she's still not married. It's at this time. I want to say the Victorian era. I feel like it's probably wrong, but it's like historical, you know? She decides to go to Egypt and find out what happened. Her uncle really does not fucking want her there because it's very dangerous and he's in charge of her now basically until she finds a husband. She refuses to leave and she even like sneaks onto ships when she's not supposed to, so she's very wily and she's very stubborn. There, she meets her uncle's right-hand man, Whitford Hayes. So, we have the setup feels like Isabel Ibanez is trying to make a setup very similar to our love interests in The Mummy, Rick and Evie. This, I see what she's trying to do. It did not hit the Mummy vibe for me. Like, it kind of did because we have Egypt, we have the setting, we have like, you know, going to explore different tombs and whatever. And we have Whitford Hayes, who's a bad boy. A vibe. They were like Rick and Evie Timo version. Like they were just not it. But guys, I had so much fun with this duology. I don't read a lot of YA fantasy anymore. As you guys know, if you've been on my channel for a while, I find a lot of YA fantasy pedantic and it's just not my thing anymore, which is totally fine. But every once in a while, I really want to sink into something that is batshit crazy and just like won't let me go, is like addicting to read. I wouldn't say that this is necessarily that, but it was batshit crazy. And the angst, the yearning, guys, this was a lot of fun. I ended up giving these two books 3.5 stars. I think that they were plotted fucking bananas. It was, as I said, first like 60%, I was saying earlier, 60% of this book felt apt. I was like, okay, I'm expecting kind of like an Elizabeth Peters situation where they're going to explore some things in these caves. They're going to find out some information about her parents, yada, yada, yada. After that 60% mark though, we are dropped into a gang movie in here. I did not realize this was going to get so violent, so dark, so fast. It was bananas. And the last page, if you are one of those people that accidentally flips to the last page and can spoil yourself, swear to me you will not do this with this book if you decide to pick it up, because that last page fucking sent me. I have not had a book like this in so long. I don't even think I've ever had a book like this where the very last page of it made me at fucking 1 a.m. get the sequel on my Kobo from the library, because I was like, I just need to know what the fuck was that last page. So I had a great time with this. I went in expecting atmosphere. That is not what I got at all. I got a rip-roaring ride of Egyptian, Cleopatran, alternate history, fantasy vibes with a romance at the heart of it that was kind of weird. But also I kind of love them together. And book 2 just gave me emotional whiplash. And the amount of betrayals, guys, the betrayals in this fucking book, whiplash. Like, I forgot. It's been a while since I've read like a proper YA fantasy. Shit goes balls to the wall, man. Like, they just don't let up. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Anyways, I gave both of those books 3.5 stars. It is a 3.5 star book series to me. I had a good time reading it, but it wasn't very good, you know? It's one of those books. So go in expecting to have a really good time, not expecting to find like a 5-star brand new amazing favorite book, you know? In between those two books, I ended up reading Hamajang Luck by Makana Yamamoto, which I originally read for the Trans Rights Readathon, but I only ended up reading 1 book for the Trans Rights Readathon, so it feels so lame of me because last year I read like 7. I hate it. Not like I don't read trans books and non-binary books all year round, but just it felt a little lame of me to be only able to fit in 1 book because I just wasn't in a strong reading mood in the last couple weeks, even though I did read another 3 books besides this one. Shit, my cat just did parkour against the window. Freya, what the fuck is happening to you, baby? She's in a kooky mood, so if you hear anything, that's her. But this is a heist novel. I think it was a very okay, solid heist novel. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It just, there was something missing. And it also made me realize that heist stories are much better done in film. Just much better done. I think like the only heist books that I can really say are like phenomenal that I've read, and phenomenal I say loosely. I wouldn't necessarily say any of these are like 5-star books, but Six of Crows, of course. We have The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope and Among Thieves by M.J. Kuhn. And granted, these 3 books, the heist part of it is a mechanic in the book, but that's not necessarily what made the book so amazing and good. And I don't think any of them did the heist mechanic as well as a movie does. This was fine. I think it was just fine. The ending, the heist mechanic, it was missing things because there are certain things you expect going into a heist book, especially, or a heist storyline, especially with the ending and the actual heist of it all. There are things you expect to happen, twists, shit goes bad, etc., etc. A lot of that was missing in here, and this heist felt too easy for me. Too easily wrapped up, if you will. And this is also a single point of view. I think heist books work so much better when you have a multi-POV cast because you are dealing with found family, massive cast in a heist situation because you have all these different moving parts of a heist group, if you will. This only focused on one person. It focused on Edie, who is escaped from jail, who is released from jail right at the beginning of this, and they are kind of sent back home to their sister, who is like very pregnant with her third child. And Edie, all they want to do is just settle back into this life and do good for their sister. But they get roped back into being this criminal because the person who released them from jail basically traps them into being like into doing the last job, the biggest job that'll set them up for life kind of a thing. All we get is Edie's point of view in here. And I feel like that is a weak link of this book because it is a heist book. Not to say that this book was weak in any way with the story of Edie. I think Edie's story was very good, but because it's a heist story, you need the multi-POV. You just do, because you have so many people in here, and it was like supposed to be this big found family, this very queer cast, but I just feel like we didn't get to know anyone else other than Edie properly in this. So, I don't know. As I said, 3 stars. Wasn't my favorite, but I'm glad I read it. Then I did 2 different rereads. So I reread The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah because the second one is finally fucking coming out after like 3 years of waiting. The Ashfire King. Guys, when this book came out back in 2021, I think, 2022, my apologies. Back when this came out in 2022, we got the cover reveal for the Ashfire King so quickly after this came out, and I was like, great, we're only gonna have to wait a year for this. It kept getting pushed back. We were expecting it last year. I even pre-ordered it last year, and it got canceled. I was so mad, but we're finally getting it in like 10 days or some shit like that. It's coming out this month. So I finally reread The Stardust Thief. This was originally 5 stars when I read it for the first time back in 2022. This is actually like a 4.5 star book. It's not quite a favorite, and that's what I keep my 5 stars for, but this is so much fun. I think it is a fabulously well done book. I don't love a lot of the writing. It feels a little bit like I want more from it. I want a little more from the writing, but it is also just very good. Like the storytelling in here is very good. The storytelling aspects in here, like throughout, we have every once in a while these moments where either our narrator is telling us a story or Mazen, one of our characters, is telling a story, and it is actually like depicted as like a story in here with like papyrus, if you will, parchment, which I think is really cool. And every single one of these is written beautifully. So like the storytelling aspects of this are very good. This follows, again, another little cast of characters. We have Luli, who is the Midnight Merchant, who is this kind of mythical merchant almost. She's kind of made this name for herself because she sells magical relics. And she finds these relics with this compass that she got after her parents were brutally killed. Her entire village was brutally killed. And this Jinn, Kadir, finds her and is like, okay, you are worthy of this compass. Like, we're gonna go find all these relics and like find better homes for them, essentially. I love Kadir. He's my favorite. Oh my god, he's my favorite. I love him so much. He's so sassy. So it follows Luli and Kadir. And then we also have Mazen, who is the younger sibling of 2 brothers in princely form. He's the younger prince. And Mazen is a sweet, sheltered cinnamon roll. I love him very deeply. He's so good, and his storytelling is just absolutely beautiful. Like, he's a naturally born storyteller. I love it so much. And we also have Aisha, who is a thief, one of Mazen's brothers, Omar's 40 thieves. We have a lot of influences from the like story of Aladdin and also the 100,000 Nights or 1,000 Nights. I feel like that's the wrong name of it, but you know that specific story where there was a king who kept killing all of his brides except for one who like volunteered to be his bride and then like tricked him by telling him a story all night, and like he could only kill her at night. You guys know that story, right? So there's a little bit of that in here. Like the influences of those stories are very clear on these pages. I don't know. I had a really great time with this and I loved it. And I'm so excited that we're finally getting book 2. I have an arc for it and I'm buddy reading it with Julie and her friend Taha, and I just cannot wait. I cannot wait to get into it. I know Julie's already started, so I think that might be the next book I pick up, depending, but I had a great time with this. 4.5 stars. Loved. And thank God I did a reread because holy shit did I remember absolutely nothing of that book. Then another one that I reread was A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair because I want to read the entire Hoffling saga. Now, this one I only ended up giving 3 stars. This was originally 3.5 stars when I read it for the first time. I gave it 3 stars upon reread. I forgot how shitty the writing is. Like, I hate saying that, but God, is it bland? Is it plain? Is it like a grocery list when we get to our action scenes? So it didn't do anything for me, and the story is fine. It is a fine romantasy, if you will. But I'm excited to keep going with this saga because I really want to see how Melissa Blair's writing changes and improves, because this is her debut. And she released this originally as that, like, guess, like, it was like an anonymous book talk release that, like, people just kept getting it. And it was like this big mystery is like, who is the writer of this? And then it ended up getting picked up, traditionally published. So I think it's really cool that she did that. I just cannot wait to see how her writing improves. This follows Kira, who is a halfling. And in this world, halflings are the children of humans and elves. They are deemed as not people. They are not people. They are property of the king, essentially. And so they are, like, not necessarily, well, yeah, kind of enslaved. Their bodies are put to work. Kira herself is the Blade. She is, like, the top person of this entire little assassin group that they got, of the Shades, if you will. And Kira, at the beginning of this, is hunting down this shadow, the Shadow, capital S, because the Shadow is starting to come against the king. And Kira is the king's blade, right? So she must track him down. But as she does, she starts realizing that her world is not the way it should be, or that it is. And it's interesting. I enjoyed the story, and I'm excited to keep going to see how Melissa's, like, storytelling gets better, the writing gets better, all that good stuff. But yeah, 3 stars. And finally, the last book that I managed to squeeze into March on the 31st is Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule. This is the very first book in the more modern spin-off series of the Star Wars books, Star Wars: The High Republic. So this is set, like, at the height of the Republic, like 200 years before the events of Episode 1, I do believe. So, height of the Republic, Jedi fucking everywhere. You can't get rid of them. And this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this. If you were interested in going into the Star Wars High Republic, one, do your research, because there is not only this main, I think, 8-book series of adult Star Wars books. They're all written by different authors. Within this 8-book Star Wars series, there's like phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 starts with this one, and there's also comics, graphic novels, and young adult literature that is interspersed in this to, like, really flesh out that era. And then phase 2, I believe, is like a prequel to that, which is very, episode 1 of these people. I love it very much. And then there's phase 3, which picks up this story again afterwards. Like, there's a whole situation of it. So I'm really intrigued to just dabble in the Star Wars books, because this was a lot of fun. I had so much fun reading this. It felt like I was reading a Star Wars movie. Like, it just, and Charles Soule, my man, there were so many fucking characters in this, and yet they all felt quite distinct. And it's very clear who we had to pay attention to as we were going around. It felt like a lot right at the beginning because it was a very cinematic opening, because of, like, the first, like, 3, 4, 5 chapters of shit happening. But then we started to narrow down on the characters that we needed to care about and, like, actually pay attention to, our main characters, if you will. We have Avar, we have Belle, we have I want to say Logan, but it's not Loden. We have, the folks on the front, if you will. It was just a lot of fun. It was so much fun. And guys, pick up the audiobook for this. If you are interested in going into Star Wars books, if you're interested in having the most entertaining time, pick up the fucking audiobooks for this, because oh my God, I have listened to, like, fully produced audiobooks. Like, I've listened to The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. There is, like, a couple sound effects here and there, and the narrator giving it her all, right? It is a fantastically done audiobook. I have listened to Dune, which has a mostly full cast audiobook, and it's got some interesting stuff happening in, like, the beginning and the end and, like, shit like that. This shit, guys, it was like I was listening to a movie. There's not a second of this book that does not have background atmosphere in it. It's one narrator. This narrator put his entire narrativity in it. He did not Fucking, he was like, oh, you want me to narrate a Star Wars book? Fucking hold my beer and like put the pedal to the floor, into the ground, with how much he was giving it his all in this. Oh my God. I will say one of the voices that he chose for someone at the beginning sounded exactly like Trump, and I was very concerned that they were going to be a character for most of it. They were not. They were not an important character, but the voice was very Trumpy, and I was not a fan. I was not a fan, but it's okay. But the production, okay? The budget for this audiobook was fucking phenomenal, because we had, oh my God, like, because we have a Wookiee Jedi, there was a lot of like, if we were not in Barada's, like, Barada? That feels wrong. That feels like the cheese. I feel like I pronounced their name wrong. I can't quite remember it. But if we were in their POV and they were speaking, we got their actual words. But the way that a narrator would introduce the Wookiee speaking was like literally doing the Chewbacca sound into it. Was incredible. But then if we were not in their point of view and we were in someone else's point of view that couldn't understand Wookiee, it was just noises. And there were just like background noises like added in. And like the alarm sounds were in here. The spaceship sounds were in here. The lightsabers. Picked up that fucking audiobook. I'm so excited to keep going with this. I picked up also at the thrift store the other day because it was like $2. I picked up Tempest Runner, which is I originally thought it was just a novel, but it is not. It is very specifically an audio drama. And I found the script of it essentially in like novel form. I'm so excited to listen to it because it follows a character that we meet in here who's on like the bad side. Ooh, and the way that this sets up such an intriguing bad guy. I am so excited about this. And the way that Charles like sets up all of these beautiful characters and the way that he presents this brand new world to us. We're exploring the Outer Rim. And I had so much fun with this. I gave this 4 stars. I had so much fun, and I highly, highly recommend it if you are at all interested in Star Wars, at all interested in sci-fi. Ooh, this was a lot of fun, and I'm very excited to keep going. But I'm excited to listen to like Tempest Runner because I cannot wait to hear what that shit sounds like. If this is just an audiobook and how this was produced, what about a specifically audio format for stories? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, there are so many different medias of which we are getting the story of the High Republic. I love it. And I picked specifically this route for the Star Wars books because it is apparently the most modern one. It's the most recent one that they're doing. And so it is also the most diverse. And so I'm ready to meet all of our characters and get all their stories. So those are all the books that I read this month. We love that. Hell yeah. Anyway, so if you guys remember, back in January, I did a month-long reading vlog, basically setting up goals that I wanted to pursue this year, all my reading goals. And I wanted to start the year strong by actually achieving these goals. Reading diversely, reading a lot more authors of color. I wanted to read more sci-fi books this year. I wanted to continue and actually finish a lot of series and continue a lot of series. Of course, I want to buy less, but that's not really going very well. So I wanted to kind of check in on how my goals are doing. And I think, guys, Q1, I think Q1 is doing very, very well. We are cruising, my friends. We have already finished 2 separate series. Granted, both of them are duologies, but that's okay because we are also continuing a lot of series. Let me pull up my CawPile 2025. So I've started 8 series this year, but I have also continued with 5 sequels this year, which I'm very happy with. And then I've already finished 2 series, and I've DNF'd another series. So not bad. And I had a goal of like reading 10 series this year. I am on track to be finishing the Megan E. O'Keefe one very soon. And I'm doing a series video for that one, and also for the Melissa Blair saga. So I got 3 more books in that one to polish off, but they're really quick to read, so happy about that. The series goal is good. It's trucking along. We finished 2 so far out of the 10 of my goal. If I can read more than 10 series and finish more than 10, I would be very happy. I will say we are still sitting at 92 ongoing series because I do continuously start new series. I really need to chill with that. I really need to chill with that. My ratings so far this year are a little lower. My average rating right now is about 3.5, which is fine. I've had exactly 2 new 5 stars. One of them in my head is actually a 4.5 star. It was just a 5-star experience reading it, and that is The Principle of Moments by Esme J. Person, because I read it with Allie, and it was so much fun reading it. So it's 5 stars, but it's actually 4.5 star in my book. So I've had like one brand new, fresh, actually 5-star book, and that is Parable of the Sower. So Q2 better bring me some more favorite books. It better, because I'm gonna be mad if it doesn't. And as I said, one of my goals, I've literally written down, hit 50-50 ratio on my BIPOC authors. So I wanted to read, obviously want to read more diversely just in general with disability and with queerness and also with people of color. So I have made it a fucking point that every month so far, I have been adding books to my TBR by BIPOC authors. And I'm sitting at a 64.5% to 35.5% ratio with yes by a BIPOC author or no. So I am much, much better situated than I was last year. I think last year we ended with a 60% no, 40% yes, or around there. So right now I'm at 64% yes, 35% no. So if I can keep it like that all year, I'll be very happy, but I'm so content. So far, my friends, we are doing good. Another goal I had was reading more Canadian authors. I have so far read 2, which is not a lot. I need to do a little better because American is always the one that just dominates that shit. I've read like 23 because unfortunately that is just how it works in the publishing world. But I just have to, seek out those books. That's really the thing. If you want to read more diversely, you have to actively seek out the books because publishing today, very white, very able-bodied, very straight. And that's what gets pushed and that's what gets advertised. So anyways, that is a little bit of a Q1 wrap up. We've read 29 books in Q1. I finished the 30th book last night, but it's April, so it doesn't count. So 29 books in Q1, 2 new 5-star books. It's been an interesting time. But anyways, my friends, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in another video very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.